Good morning and happy Saturday, you guys. It is Amanda and Baron with Kickin'Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for this first half is Oddmo's Pizza. And so after this, I'm going home and I'm doing a bunch of homemade cooking and all of that. So I'm going to stop at Oddmo's. I'm going to grab a Reggie Veggie and a Green Monster because I can trust that all their ingredients are fresh and amazing. They're gluten-free cauliflower crust. I think I said that right.
Yep,
Gluten-free cauliflower crust is so good and so healthy for you with all of the veggies on top. So that's what I'm going to feed my kids because I'm just too busy to cook today. So thank you, Oddmo's Pizza.
And last night, my wife got off work and she'd worked a 12-hour day, and I said, "Do you want pizza?" Mm-hmm. We got the Reggie Veggie, and some wings.
Yes. So. It's beautiful. I love it. An option that is healthy and good for you, while still so yummy. Oh my gosh.
Well, I have a super good friend that I brought with me today, and I'm going to let Manny introduce himself. So Manny Martinez, not the guitar player, for those who listen. But Manny and I met 4 years ago, I think, at a greeters event. So tell the listeners who you are.
Well, first of all, meat eater, so I like meat in my pizza for all those meat eaters out there.
Well, they have that one too.
I know. I just want to stick up for us.
So I was the same.
Carnivores and herbivores. We got you both covered.
I was the same before too. And you can add chicken to the Green Monster.
Oh, I know.
Phenomenal.
I know. That pizza's really good. I like it. So, my name is Manny Martinez, native New Yorker. Been here in the Salem area for about a little over 7 years now. My wife's family moved from Brooklyn to California up to Oregon. And so eventually, by the time I met her, they were up here. And we made our way from New York over west, eventually landing in Salem. So love it here, and glad to know Baron, and glad to be here with you as well.
I paid him to say who's
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah. It's minimum wage, but it's something.
Fair enough. Something's better than nothing.
It's something.
Well, this is going to get more into the conversation as we go along, but there is a picture that's very famous from 9/11 when it happened, the 9/11 September 11th attack. And that picture was taken from the north, looking south at the towers. Manny was in his office south of the towers, looking north. So I want to have a discussion about what has happened in New York City since 9/11.
Okay.
But the other piece is your family's from the Dominican Republic.
That's right.
And it's very interesting. It's like an oval island divided in half with two countries. Except the cancer rates on the two countries are dramatically different.
Okay.
So I want Manny's thoughts on that one as well.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing blue for two reasons. He's a huge Yankees fan, but I'm representing the policeman that responded on 9/11.
Okay.
And he's wearing red for the firemen that responded on 9/11.
I love that. Okay.
Because they just did their job. They had no idea what they were going to. They just did their job. And it was bad.
It's pretty bad.
It was pretty bad. But we'll get more into that in a minute. But last week's guest was a very interesting discussion. Someone Dr. Drew Isaacson, was with this discussion about sarcoma cancer, which I didn't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to do a little research this year for that show. What was the big takeaway for you with that whole discussion?
Well,
I think we were talking about this before we started recording, actually.
just how much the devices around us. So, like we were talking about correlation, causation. There's no actual evidence that he believes that the flip phone switching to a regular smartphone and the radiation difference made his tumor grow. But I believe that that's a huge possibility because our electronics that we carry with us 24/7, they are like our lifelines, and they are radiating with radiation and all kinds of different things. And so my big takeaway from that was just being more aware of what you put in your body, next to your body, and just it doesn't need to be like him with his put in his back pocket. I went home and told my husband about it, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I talk with it in my neck right here, so I have to be careful." And so just being aware of a lot of that stuff around us.
And I think the point I was trying to make is we're not trying to scare people and thinking that if you put your cell phone in your back pocket, you're going to get cancer in your butt cheek. That's not what we're trying to say. But be aware of what's around you.
Right.
And, so that's a lot of the awareness.
Right. Yeah. Like mine, I put it in my back pocket all the time, but now I'm making a more effort decision to put it in my purse. Mm-hmm. And so just those little tiny things to try to get it away from me as much as possible.
Well, and most of the carriers have gone from 4G to 5G.
Yes.
Which was an incremental increase in radiation to go to 5G as well. So that's a big component as well.
Okay. Yeah.
5G, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing we've been doing, Manny, is I found this magazine at a Safeway or someplace. It's 100 disease-fighting foods. We've been kind of making our way through it. The last couple of weeks we've been bringing in. We had pears and pineapples. But one of my favorites is actually today.
I see it.
You see it?
I do. Pistachios.
Pistachios.
I love pistachios.
I actually like to spend a little bit more money and get them out of the shells.
Yeah.
To save the work and get those little guys out of the shells. But
they're terrible.
They are. So you're a fan of pistachios too?
Yeah, and we actually just had the famous Dubai chocolate bar.
Okay, but here's the thing with the Dubai, the pistachio cream stuff that they put inside. Have you ever looked at how much sugar?
Don't burst her bubble.
Put a picture on so you can come back and find it on.
It was a one-time bar. Believe that.
Well, the Dubai bars are.
I will never buy that again. Just for the record, too expensive.
Well, we'll circle back.
I threw it away, Ashley. I'll never know.
Raw pistachios.
So what it says about pistachios is, in addition to being a good source of heart-healthy monounsaturated fatty acids, pistachios are packed with carotenoids, antioxidants that help tame down inflammation. We know that all disease is caused from inflammation. May protect against cancer.
Wow.
Another bonus, research suggests that they may be a prebiotic helping to feed good gut bacteria. Bring on the pistachios.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I love pistachios. They're so good. And you can get them in all different flavors now.
Yeah, even ice cream has it.
Oh.
There is.
I'm just saying.
Ice cream.
I'm just saying.
Not wrong.
I love pistachio ice cream.
Sprinkle that on your most pizza, huh?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Well, and my update is yesterday was our first Russ Rocks concert.
Yes.
Which was free to the public because we had it at the Rec there in Kaiser.
Yeah.
The next one, there is a $100 cost. And that's on the 15th of February there in Corvallis. I'm sure that right now, somewhere around here on YouTube, is the flyer popping up. And if you haven't been to our YouTube channel, it's Kickin'Cancer Productions on YouTube. Please subscribe. But that is a really big fundraiser for Russ Hedge.
Yeah.
So that's the 15th of February, not too far away.
Perfect.
Well, I want to get more heavily into why my friend Manny's here with us. And maybe the first half, let's talk about 9/11, and the second half, we'll talk about the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So before I throw a bunch of statistics out, I want you to hear what it was like to be there that day. So tell us what it was like, Manny, that day.
So that day was, it's hard to describe how perfect a day it was, waking up and with that crispy weather of, early September. It was so bright. It was not a cloud in the sky. It was crisp. At that point, I think we were still wearing suits to work. That was before, things got a little casual because of 9/11, people working from home and working part-time at home or whatever the case may be. But before then, we all wore suits, especially in banking. I was an investment banker at a big bank in New York at the time. And, regular day, woke up, took the subway downtown from Midtown where I worked. So, Manhattan is kind of a long island, not to be confused with Long Island, which is another location. But it's a kind of south to north oblong or long island. And I lived right in Midtown, Times Square area. And so I took the subway downtown. And usually when I get up and get out of the subway, I take the stairs up to the street level. And I could see about 2 blocks ahead of me where I have to make a right turn to go to the office. So as I'm approaching that corner, I see a bunch of people at the corner looking up and like kind of pointing and talking amongst themselves. And I thought that was really weird. As I'm approaching, I look up and there's the one of the first tower that was hit on fire. And I asked someone next to me what was going on, and they thought it was they heard there was a small plane. Because that's all they had at the time in terms of information. Small plane had maybe gotten off course and hit the tower. And I think something similar had happened a long time ago with the Empire State Building. So it was not inconceivable that a small plane kind of got lost or whatever. But it was weird, given that the weather was perfect.
Right.
So so after kind of commiserating and that sucks and this and that and the other, and I'm seeing all these papers, all these like office papers, kind of doing this kind of out of the windows, because they just happened like a few minutes before I got there. And so on my way to the office, I jump on my phone and I call a couple of people who I either knew or thought worked down there, or there was one friend who I knew his wife, or maybe girlfriend at the time, worked there as well. So, hey, I don't know if you heard, but, check in and make sure, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I go into the office, and I lived, the only thing I'll correct you on, Baron, is that I had the same view as the famous view looking south. I was just more south than from that view. That view was from, I think, Rockefeller Center on 50th Street or something. And my office was in Tribeca, which is farther south, kind of 2/3 of the way down towards the World Trade Center. And then there's the World Trade Center. So same view. So I get into the office. My memory tells me, I think I used to work on the 39th floor. But I was close enough that you're still doing this, kind of looking up at the fire. So I put my stuff down in the office, and I jump on the phone, make a couple more calls, and eventually I make my way to a corner office where one of our managing directors was located, and his view was, he had a window office corner, and his view was south and west, so south to the World Trade Center and west to New Jersey from where we were. And, we were a bunch of us, probably 15 or 20 people in his office, and just looking, and at one point I remember seeing what I thought to be a person falling out of the building, and I didn't say anything. I just kind of looked and said, "Oh my God." Mm-hmm. And I remember, just kind of commiserating and what were you doing? And I was coming on the subway. What were you doing? And kind of just trading stories about what had happened over the last hour or so.
Right.
And then soon thereafter, I'm looking at the buildings, and the from my vantage point, the north tower was to the right a little bit, and the south tower was kind of laying behind it a little bit to my left. And I see this big black thing coming from the New Jersey side, and it was just like this humongous black thing, and it turned out to be a plane, just in the shadow.
Oh.
And so as I'm looking at the buildings, this thing kind of does this and banks behind the building.
Okay.
And I remember it's like being in a movie. You see the explosion before you hear it, because light travels faster than sound.
Right.
So what you see is, and about a second and a half later, boom!
Did it rattle the?
It rattled all the buildings.
Yeah, you just got shivers.
Yeah,
like the windows rattled.
Everything rattled. It was just crazy. And then I remember the announcement coming up over the loudspeaker. I never heard this. What they say when there's a fire? What do? Don't take the elevator. Take the stairs. Calmly walk down. They were like, "Get out now! Take the elevator. Take the escalator.
Go.
Like, whatever you need to do. Get out. Leave everything." So we made our way downstairs.
And you're on the 39th floor.
Yeah, well, I'll take the elevator. They said we could, so
well, that's high up there.
He did run down 30 stairs.
Yeah,
regardless of your exit route, that's high.
Oh, that's high up there. That's up there. Well, I mean,
okay, sorry, keep going.
Imagine those people in the World Trade Center where they were on the 110th floor.
Yeah.
80th floor.
Yeah.
Whatever that was. So anyway, so we go downstairs, and I remember one colleague whose wife was supposed to be down there. She wound up being okay, but my wife, she left before me. She should have been there. She's not picking up, because by then all the cell towers were either over flooded or not working, or whatever the case may be. As a matter of fact, I think they all had a big antenna at the World Trade Center, so that was probably knocked out.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Oh, to knock there, yeah.
Yeah, so
huge antenna on top of the World Trade Center.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So after a while, I want to say an hour and a half or so, everything was done. Everything was shut down. No subway, no buses, no traffic. Lanes were closed off because they wanted to make sure that emergency vehicles were able to get up and down and through the city. So after a while, I just started walking north and walking home, because it was going to take me about 2.5 hours to get there. So I just started walking. I'm listening at the time. I had this is 2020. Oh, this was 01.
Oh, one.
So it was about 6 years before the iPhone, and however many years before the iPod. So I had a little Dell MP3 player that happened to have an FM tuner.
Okay.
And so I'm walking north and listening to the news because everything was now piped into CNN or whatever it was, and seeing people on the street voting because it was Tuesday election day, local election day, and getting lunch and just chilling. And
Weird.
they had no clue what had happened a mile down or 2 miles down. I mean, not yet anyway.
Yeah. Well, and especially because social media probably wasn't as huge
Oh,
then
no.
either. So
No.
There was no Facebook.
There was nothing.
There was no Instagram.
Right.
No one's
MySpace
on. No one's on
probably wasn't even a thing
TikTok
then.
sending out a video, right?
Exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah, so if it wasn't on the phone and it wasn't by word of mouth,
You don't know.
It's going to take a little while.
Yeah.
It's going to take minutes or hours depending on where you are and what you do. So so I'm looking around thinking, these people have no idea. These people have it was a fascinating thing to observe that these people had no idea of what was going on. And so I'm walking north, walking home, and throughout the walk, I'm listening to the news, and it was second tower just got hit, first tower's down, another plane just got down in D.C., second tower's down, another plane was down in Pennsylvania. One is reported to be on its way to Seattle. I'm thinking, and meanwhile, what do you hear up above us?
Planes. Yeah.
F-16s or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Right, and I'm thinking, our world is coming to an end. This is it.
Sky is falling,
That's it. Literally,
Literally
the sky is falling.
Yes.
Yeah. So I get home, and by the time I got home, I called my mom. We had an emotional breakdown because I was like, it was the first time I was able to like kind of process
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So by then, I had a friend who lived a block or two away. She came over to hang out, and then I had two colleagues. One who lived in Yonkers, so there was no way to get home. One lived in Yonkers, one who lived in, I think, New Jersey or the Upper West Side of Manhattan, I forget where. But, hey, can we hang out? I know you live not. I'm like, yeah, come over. So, they brought some beer.
Bunker down together.
Bought some beer and bought some chips and, whatever, and just listen to, watch the news. It was, MSNBC or CNN or whatever it was at the time. And just watch the whole thing. And people putting pictures up and they don't know where their loved ones were and this and that and the other. And then the aftermath of everything of, the video that came out of the plane hitting the Pentagon and, the first tower, coming down and the second one coming down. And, it was just, and by then you couldn't even process much because it was all still under smoke and fire and dust and concrete and all of that. It wasn't like you didn't know yet what had happened, what the result of what had happened was. So that was the day. And I remember my friend. I had a good friend who had been through the fire department academy or whatever they call it. He was going to be a rookie starting October, November, December, that kind of thing. And he got the call. You're on.
Now.
You're starting today.
Right now.
So he spent the next 2 weeks basically on top of a crane or whatever, just dousing whatever fires he saw with a hose.
Yeah.
Because that was his kind of introduction into being a firefighter. So I'd get kind of updates from him as to what it was like and all that. And I remember that for weeks, if not a couple of months. I live in Midtown. I lived on 46th Street between 8th and 9th in Manhattan. This was several miles. This is, I don't know, 4 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles. I forget, because Manhattan can get a little wonky when you get south. And every single day you step out of the apartment, you smell this mix of fuel and concrete and metal and heat, and it was
For
just
days.
For weeks,
Months.
if not
For
a couple of
weeks.
months.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
bet.
Yeah, so that took a while to kind of
was a
get
big
used to, and then
mess.
So that was the beginning of a changed environment, changed New York, and it's just crazy.
Well, I brought some interesting information for you, and not letting the grass grow.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So I just thought this was 23 and a half years ago. Mm-hmm. 23 and a half years ago was when this happened.
That's crazy.
So what's happened in New York in the last 23 and a half years? Right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, you've got asbestos in those buildings. You've got jet fuel. You've got a lot of soot. I mean, you've got firefighters that just were doing their job. Their job was to respond to a fire. They had no idea how bad this fire was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And the other thing I want to kind of verbally paint a picture, Manny, because most of the West Coast don't understand the boroughs. So Manhattan is kind of in the middle of the boroughs.
No, actually, it's kind of, if anything, it's on the west side of the boroughs.
Okay.
So if you think about the border between New York and New Jersey's on the, looking at a map, New Jersey's on the west or the left, and New York or Manhattan. I'm talking about New York City's on the right or the east. New York State kind of wraps around, but. And so Manhattan is across the Hudson River from New Jersey.
Okay.
Okay, so that when you're on the Manhattan side, north of it is the Bronx. East of it is Queens. Southeast is Brooklyn, and then southwestish is Staten Island.
Okay. Does that make sense,
Yeah.
Amanda? Because that's
On an old school map, it almost looks like a hand, like a
Yeah.
star.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look at the map.
Because I wanted him to describe the boroughs on purpose, because that's going to play into some of these numbers I want to throw to you.
Okay.
Since 9/11, prostate cancer is up 25%.
Wow.
Leukemia, blood cancer, is up 41%.
Whoa. In those areas only?
In New York City.
Wow.
In New York City.
41%.
41%. Your thyroid is actually located at like the base of your throat. Because Morgan on our boards had thyroid cancer. They had to go in here and they had to remove the thyroid. The thyroid controls so much of your body system. Thyroid cancer is up 219%.
Wow. That's crazy.
Firefighters that responded to that, they are 10 to 12 times faster lung decline than the rest of the city. The firefighters. 10 to 12
heartbreaking.
times faster lung decline. New York City, now this is intriguing. They looked at the 25 to 49-year-olds. So if you're 25 now, you were 2,
Right.
right? If you're 49 now, you were 25. So they're looking at that age group now. They are higher than the rest of the United States for cancer. Now, this is what I find really intriguing. Staten Island specifically, the kids on Staten Island are 28% higher cancer rates than the rest of the city and 32% higher cancer rates than the rest of the state.
Wow.
Where did the
That's
wind blow
crazy.
after it happened? Towards Staten Island?
Of course.
And there's another component, and we've got another 3 or 4 minutes. You were telling me that Staten Island has like this massive garbage dump on the island?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, it's always, we half jokingly, half not. I've always thought of Staten Island as like the stepchild borough, you know.
The
Like,
ugly stepchild.
like no regular subway goes there. You got to take a special bus and all that stuff. But I believe, maybe even to this day, I can't really say, but I believe so. The Staten Island is still where the garbage goes. It's
Right.
it's where it's a kind of flattish, kind of open area. So they have the garbage dumps. That's where, you know, I don't know if all 5 boroughs garbage dumps get piled up in Staten Island, but it's known for that. And I believe, if my memory serves me, that it's where a lot of the effects or the results of the fallout from the buildings were sent to. Because but Manhattan, the southern tip of Manhattan, which is where the financial district is, which is where the World Trade Center was, is right across from Staten Island. So if it's going to go anywhere, if it needs to go anywhere and be sifted through, that's where it went.
Because it was closest in proximity.
Yeah.
So you have these. You remember how tall were the tower? How many floors were on the towers?
110-ish.
Yeah, so it's
floors.
a lot of debris coming down,
Oh, yeah.
and it's got to go somewhere.
Times 2.
Times two. Times two.
Yeah.
And so all that debris had to go to
Wow.
Staten Island.
That's scary.
So since 9/11, the kids on Staten Island, 28% higher cancer rates than the rest of the city, and 32% higher cancer rates than the rest of the state.
That's bizarre.
So there's the long-term fallout of that attack that Manny watched.
And that's crazy that you don't hear about that more often, those numbers and those statistics, because that's pretty terrifying.
I just printed it off from the internet. That's where I got it.
That is, those are scary, real numbers.
219% higher thyroid cancer. That's huge.
Massive.
That's huge.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm I'm thrilled that we have somebody here with us that was
Yes.
actually there to witness that horrible day in our
Yeah.
country's history. But here we sit this long dealing with the aftermath of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
if you would have been running late, imagine.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
standing.
You never know. I mean, there
Yeah.
are people who got saved by running late, and there's people who were there earlier than normal who perished. So
We're going to take a commercial break.
Yep.
When we come back, I want to dive into another part of Manny's history.
Okay, perfect. And a huge shout out to Oddmo's Pizza. Thank you again so much because you'll be feeding my family today. And for the meat lovers, there is the Bull Rider that is like a barbecue chicken, amazing pizza. They've got lots of meat options for
oh,
you,
they do.
Manny.
They do.
Oh, yes. All right, we'll be right back, you guys. Stay tuned.